Namaskar, a special invitation for our friends in Bangalore. Srimati Jaya Rao will be in the city later this month for talks on the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 4 Wisdom in Action. Enjoy 2 evenings of inspiration and practical insights. Join us on 30th and 31st May from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Hall, Vasant Nagar. Please share this invitation with your family and friends in Bangalore. A single message can become the beginning of a profound inner journey. To receive updates of Jayaji's talks and events, join the WhatsApp community through the link in the description box. And now, I invite Jayaji to continue with Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 7.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Any questions? You have a question? Yeah.
100% objectivity is enlightenment. With reference to other people's actions or with reference to the outward looking, it's easy to do. When it comes to the personal level, where I'm not involved completely, it's easy. When you are involved completely, it becomes very difficult. How do you manage that?
That's true. What he's talking about is objectivity. So when you get to 100% objectivity, you are in the state of enlightenment. Before that, you fall short. Now what he's saying is, when it comes to other people, it's easy to be objective. Even that people get involved, but relatively easy. But when it comes to yourself, it gets tough. And then even with reference to yourself, where you are involved or attached, like your family members, your children, your grandchildren, there it's very tough. It's difficult to be objective. But in areas where you are not that attached, it's relatively simpler. So what is the way out? Just to keep improving spiritually. Keep going upward. And for that, it is consistency that matters. Like when you go to a gym once, the first time, and come back, do you notice any change in yourself? No. Except that you may come with a body ache. But it is consistency. Every day you go, it has an effect. Similarly, you eat healthy one day, no result. That doesn't mean you give up. You have to consistently eat healthy. That focus must be there. Then you achieve. Now, similarly with spiritual development, coming to a class once, one exposure to a lecture is not going to work, meaning you don't feel the difference. But there is an impact. Every time you expose yourself to this knowledge, there is an impact. There is that change, slight change. But it's imperceptible. That doesn't mean you give up. So you take all of us, Indians by nature are inconsistent. That is why you see, if you go to a gym, they have various, options for payment. Monthly option is high, relatively. Lifelong option or annual is much lower. Do you know why? They are not being generous with you. Do you know why? You will attend for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum 1 month. After that, you give it up. So what are you doing? Paying annual charges and going only for 1 month. So they benefit. So you decide to be nice to people. You decide not to get angry. Various things. You want to improve. You make an effort once, then you keep falling. And then eventually you give up. But if you apply yourself consistently, you'll be a changed person. So for that, what must we do? There must be this daily exposure to the Bhagavad Gita. Which is why I keep telling you, please take the Bhagavad Gita. We have it. Help yourself to it. And I'm not doing you a favor. It's yours. It's our heritage, our common heritage. And once a week, all of us need a little shot in the arm. Because for you to do it every day by yourself, you'll get bored sooner or later. That inspiration doesn't last. So when you come here once a week, you get that little shot in the arm and then you continue. And then we have once a year at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. So it's that collective desire to learn has an impact on us. Yeah? Last year we had a full house. The auditorium just bursting with people. It had an impact. Everyone came and said, oh, what a great feeling it was. Why? Because that many more people collectively have the same desire to become better people. And it has an impact. It creates those vibes. So, if you don't do all of this, then where is the consistency? Everybody needs a shot in the arm. Right up to slightly short of realization, even there you can fall. So we have stories. King Bharata, for instance, was on the verge of realization. And not king, the sage Bharata was on the verge of realization. And it was not his fault. He just happened to be sitting there and he saw a sight of a pregnant deer about to deliver being chased by a hunter. So he saw the sight, and what happened is as she delivered, she got shot. So she died, the infant survived. Now, a natural instinct in the human being is to save the infant. So he did that. But in the process, what happened? His focus shifted from Atman to the deer. And then he got attached to the deer. And for that, he had to go through an entire janma as a deer. So there's a tremendous price he paid for just that deer. So what is the message? You've got to be alert all the time. You can't allow even one thought to escape the intellectual supervision, because you never know where it'll land you. Suddenly you say, I want a pup. Or you say, I want to go to Switzerland for a holiday. I want to start playing mahjong. That is the rage nowadays. That one thought can take you away. And is it worth it is the question. So therefore, the intellect has to be alert. Now for the intellect to be alert, you must have that input. I have it every day. And see, I keep telling people, you are ill, you don't feel like it, you haven't slept well, so many things come in the way. Don't allow that to deter you from. So you can cheat. Your normal thing maybe 1 hour, you don't feel like it, whatever it is. Cut it to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, even 5 minutes. That maintains your rhythm. Because otherwise, what you are saying is what will happen. And in areas where you're not objective, it drags you away, pulls you. And before you know it, months have passed, years have passed, your whole life has passed. And when it's too late, you say, "Arey, lifetime gaya." So that's the importance of consistency. Any other question? Yeah.
How does Ishtadevata help us to go for realization?
Yes. The question is, how does Ishta Devata help you to realize, to get to realization? See, all of us are not 100% intellectual. All of us are a mix of intellectual, emotional, active. So, if you want to evolve spiritually fast, then you have to fire on all fronts. Which means at the physical level, when you act, do service. I met someone this afternoon, and last year he's from Gurgaon. I told him, do service, fix a higher goal. So he said, I don't know what goal to fix. You see, people can't even visualize a goal, forget getting there. So I said, do one thing. Whatever talent you have, you're making money with it, right? So let's say he's a lawyer or a consultant or a chartered accountant or whatever it is. I'm not saying give money. Use your expertise to help people. So he says, yes, I will do. And today he came with another lady, and that lady was praising him to the skies, saying, oh, this man, he really does service. And he's changed. As a person, he's changed. He's become more cheerful, he's become more confident, he's become, all of that happens when you do service. And it begins with money, because that's the lowest. Now at that level, if you're not willing to give, then what can you do? You can't give. Attitude of giving must be there. And that attitude of giving comes when what? Correct. When you have a surplus, when you feel full. Now we never feel full. Look at what's happening. Youngsters, they all want fancy cars, fancy homes, fancy vacations, fancy everything. And sometimes I wonder, how can they afford it? When people who earn 10 times what they earn can't afford. What are they doing? EMI, correct. That EMI is the devil of the 21st century. In our Shastras, they talk about battle between the demons and the gods. Gods are Bhagavad Gita. Demons are all this. And you're tempted. You're tempted to spend more, have more, consume more. And then what do you leave for the family when you die? You're leaving debts. You're not leaving an inheritance. Is that how you want to live? I'm not against EMI. You can do what you like. But the problem is, you are spending your future income. Because your present income is not enough to fulfill your desires. So, The moment you shift to service, what happens? Your demands go down. And you start understanding that one meal that I have with my family, when you go out to a nice fancy place, you go out for dinner, how much does it cost? You guys all go out, right? Huh? Arey kya 5,000? Minimum 10,000. Isn't it? You go to a fancy place, I'm not saying Som. Even Som is 5,000.
Som is not less.
Som is 5,000.
Even it's not less.
Yeah. You have drinks, dinner, dessert, all that, minimum 10,000. Do you realize that there are people who earn less than that per month? So when we say do service, what are we saying? 1 week, don't go out to dinner. That 10,000, give it as charity. So you don't suffer, right? It's not as if you are incurring debt on the charity. Little bit, you cut here, you cut there. I'm saying cut wastage. What you waste, give as charity. You know, during COVID, what happened? There was no way of eating out. All of us had to eat at home. You know what happened? What happened? Most of us lost weight. Got healthy. Huh? So what I'm saying is, when you eat out, you are paying money to become unhealthy. Because you're eating that much more sugar, that much more fat, that much more butter, that much oil, everything. Unhealthy food. Have you heard of anyone as unintelligent as that? So instead, do some service. With the mind, you have emotions, right? Now, a person who's predominantly emotional cannot connect with God with intellectual concepts. Like we say, infinite, all-pervading. Like here, 7th chapter, he's saying. Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. By the time you come to Akshara, he's gone. So for him, for such a person, he needs a point of focus from the world to represent that subtle. So you need a gross symbol of a subtle goal. We all have that. Symbolism is rampant in our life. The national flag represents national consciousness. The wedding ring or the Mangal Sutra represents the sacred wedding. What else? So many things. Yeah. Now, in spirituality, there are people who need a symbol. Now, what symbol will you choose? It is easier to focus your mind on something you like, something that you are drawn towards. That is called Ishta Devata. So, in our culture, we have a wide array of gods and goddesses. Now, the moment you use the word God or goddess in plural, it means not Atman, Brahman. It means limited but higher goals in the world that represent Atman. So, your Ishtadevata may be Ganesha, a lot of people have. Some have Hanuman. I know people who listen or recite the Hanuman Chalisa every day while going to work. It can be Rama, Krishna. These are all the common Ishtadevatas. So you pick whatever appeals to you. And then through that, you get to God. Because you first focus, that's what happened with Sri Ramakrishna. His focus was on the goddess, the Murti there in the temple. That incidentally, that Murti is still there. So he poured out all his emotions to that, and he managed to get up to this state where he was just short of realization. But because he thought it was there, he didn't realize that slight outwardliness. And then a great sage, realized sage, I think it was Totapuri, who came there and he saw this bright young boy, 29 years old, on the verge of realization, stuck to the idea. So apparently he took a knife and pointed it to his forehead and said, "Drop it, it's not there, it's here," very powerfully. That moment he dropped the thought of the goddess, he realized. So this is the value of Ishta Devata. But for whom? For people who need it. You know? Like the national flag or the national anthem is something that inspires people who otherwise would not inculcate national consciousness. But for a Desh Bhakt who's constantly thinking of the country, he doesn't need it. It's there, he helps himself, but he doesn't need it. Okay? So I would say a vast majority of people need this at some stage in their growth. So we had covered up to verse 5 last time. We move now to verse 6.
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभव प्रलयस्तथा.
It's very nice that some of you are chanting along with the verse. But chant loudly, it doesn't matter. Don't worry, you be sur, besur, doesn't matter. It's the spirit that matters. So, know these as the womb of all beings. I am the origin and dissolution of the whole universe. Know these means he's referring to verse 5 where he's talking about verses 4 and 5 where he speaks of lower Prakriti and higher Prakriti. Lower Prakriti is matter. It consists of how many?
Body, mind, intellect,
Eight. Eight divisions. The 5 elements: mind, intellect, ego. This is the lower. The higher is the spirit that pulsates in each one of us, because matter by itself has no life. Spirit, the higher, by itself also has no life. How do we know that? With the spirit between you and me, there's no life there. The spirit in the chair, there's no life there. So for life to manifest, to pulsate, it needs matter. It needs these 8 elements. Okay? Just as electricity by itself has no light. The bulb by itself has no light. But when electricity passes through the bulb, there is a fantastic expression of light. Similarly, spirit by itself, no life. Matter by itself, no life. When spirit functions through matter, there is a scintillating expression of life. How much life there is everywhere. This is lower, matter, spirit, higher. He says these are the womb of all beings. The combination of these two is what creates. By womb he means the creators of life are matter and spirit. Then he says something interesting. I am the origin and dissolution of the whole universe. Means there is a third element. Now you say, Arey Baba, matter and spirit is difficult enough. Now what is this third element? To understand that, we have to take an example from our own life. Suppose there's someone who comes from a remote area and he has never seen gold in his life. Okay, so you say, you have a bangle. You say, you see this? This is gold. So what is his understanding of gold? In a particular shape, particular size, particular weight is gold. Bangle is gold. If you show him a gold necklace, he doesn't understand. So you have to say, no, this is not gold. So you melt the bangle and the 10 grams of gold that you get out of it, you say, show it to him and say, this is gold. Is it complete? Is your explanation of gold to him complete? No. Why?
Because then he might not be able to recognize it in any other form.
Correct. You got it. See, what she's saying is, I'm putting it in other words. His understanding of gold is restricted to the bangle and the gold that comes from the bangle. Right? So let's say he travels to South Africa where there is gold all over. And when you mention gold, he thinks of the bangle that you have shown him in Mumbai. So the third element is very important. The first is kshara, matter, perishable. The second, spirit, is akshara, imperishable. Then there has to be the Uttama Purusha. Beyond the bangle, there is tons and tons of gold everywhere. You got it? That's why always God is explained Trinity. We have Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. In Christianity you have Father, Son, Holy Ghost. In every religion there is the Trinity. So Kshara is Son. Akshara, Ghost. Uttama Purusha, Father in heaven. Beautifully put. So that's what he's saying here. Know these as the womb of all beings. I am the origin and dissolution of the whole universe. So you know what it means. Anytime you feel, I got it, this is it. The moment your intellect can conceive it, you must immediately understand this is not it. This is what the Kenopanishad Guru tells the student. The student says, I got it. I said, no, you haven't got it. With himself, he says, I know it. Then the student thinks it's an object to be known. So he says, no, I don't know it. And so that confuses us even more. Because he says, I know it, I don't know it. He who knows it, knows it. He who doesn't know it, also knows it. What do you understand by that? That's why it's always put in terms of opposites. Because the moment you say, I understand, no, you haven't understood. The other is also right. The opposite is also God. It's like trying to explain infinity to someone. How do you explain infinity? Opposites, right? If a line is extended, straight line, extended, it meets at infinity. How do you understand that? You teach this to your students. Try understanding that. Straight line which is going in opposite directions. It meets at infinity. Can you understand it? Fascinating concept. So that's what he's trying to say. At the moment you feel it, intellectually that I've got it, or emotionally, all my love is pouring out to the Ishta Devata, you haven't got it. Then he continues in verse 7.
In terms of higher Prakriti and lower Prakriti, higher is spirit and lower is VMI. So then he's saying apart from this also,
Yes.
which we can't understand.
Correct. Because she's saying lower Prakriti is matter, higher Prakriti spirit. And then he's saying beyond this there is something else. Yes. It's like saying there's gold beyond the bangle. Right? Lower Prakriti we can understand. And even that we don't understand. You don't understand how vast the universe is. Right? Higher Prakriti, somewhat you understand. But beyond, what is that beyond? You don't understand. That I don't understand is God. 7.
मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव.
Now he says, there is nothing beyond me, O Dhananjaya, winner of wealth. All this is strung on me like rows of pearls on a string. Beautiful verse. Because he addresses Arjuna and all of us as Dhananjaya, winner of wealth. We are all Dhananjayas, right? We make it our whole time mission to just gain wealth. And we have got. But how about winning the wealth that is inside you? When are you going to get there? And then he says, all this is strung on me like rows of pearls on a string. Now, when you see a pearl necklace, that necklace exists because of the string. But you don't see the string. Thank God for that. If you saw it, there's something wrong with the necklace. Similarly, exactly like that in the world. Now, if you say, where is God? God is everywhere. But I don't see. And yet, it is because of God that the whole universe exists. You see that? But we don't get it. Yes, please come. It's like this. So with this verse, we enter the second topic of this chapter, expressions of Brahman. How does Brahman express in the world? So it's like this. Let's say a family, father, mother, older child and the younger child. Older child is a son, the younger child is a daughter. They go to a puppet show. All of them enjoy the puppet show. But their focus is on different things. The younger child, she's only 3 years old, she says, she's totally captivated by the puppets themselves. And she says, look at that. She's wearing a skirt and look at that other puppet or whatever. She enjoys it, but she sees only the puppet. The older child, teenager, is smart. He sees there are strings attached to the puppets. So the puppets are not moving by themselves. There is the string. Where does the string come from? He doesn't think. But he admires that. Oh, what a way the puppets are moving because of the string. The adults, the parents, they also enjoy it. They admire the entire puppet show. But they understand what? There is a puppeteer behind it that you can't see. Do you ever see the puppeteer? No. And then some shows, out of courtesy or charity, after the whole show is over, they call the puppeteer. He comes out from the thing and everyone claps for him. But most times, a puppeteer is not seen. But he is the guy who, or she is the person who runs the show. You remember Sound of Music? There's a puppet show. What a beautiful puppet show. So that's what it is, friends. You and I are like the child. We see people moving around. We see Rohit Sharma scoring, what did he score? 80 something. We see a waterfall and we're carried away by that. We don't even think what is beyond this universe. Huh? That requires maturity. You see the distance between the sun and the earth. And then there is the moon. You know, the moon is not just for us to enjoy. But for the moon, do you know, life on earth would be impossible. You can't exist without the moon. It plays a very, very important role in our lives. But we simply don't know it. And even if you know it, you just say, you're like the string. So yes, moon plays a very important part. How many of us have that determination, the conviction, the courage to go beyond and say, who is the puppeteer behind this entire puppet show? Only such a person is wise among humans. He says that. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. How many of us are like that? How many of us have come here today with that genuine thirst to find out what is beyond all this? Who's the puppeteer? How does it feel? How does this whole universe function? Only then do you really know. Otherwise, forget it. You may have knowledge of medicine, you may have knowledge of law, you may have knowledge of management, you may have knowledge of anything. Unless you know this, you are utterly stupid. I don't say it. Who says? Krishna says, Upanishadic masters say, everybody says, not just stupid. Not stupid in Sanskrit is mudhaha. Vimudhaha means you are a PhD in stupidity. Still, it doesn't ring a bell, it doesn't make any impact on us. We say, very nice lecture. Hurry, it's not about whether the lecture is good or not. It's about your life, man. Because that knowledge is what makes the difference between being subjugated by the world, by being bullied by the world, to becoming supreme. You call the shots. Nothing in the world shakes you. That is your original nature. And why are you allowing yourself to get affected by little things that are happening? I'm not feeling well. Why? I have a headache. Hey? Oh, my friend didn't like my post. Another guy says, my wife didn't smile at me. How can she smile at you? Have you seen yourself in the mirror? This is where we are at. Wholly and entirely dependent on the world and others for our very sustenance, just balance. That is why even in the Kathopanishad it says, Uttishta, get up. Jagrata, wake up, man, woman. Prapya viran nibodhata, till you get there, don't stop. You'll remember this? Not the Sanskrit, it is the English translation. Every morning, kick yourself out of bed and say, get up, wake up. Don't stop till you get there. Just telling yourself that gives you that spurt of energy. Then you understand, what am I doing with my life? Wasting it. how much energy, what health, what things I've been blessed with, and what am I doing with it? Just wasting. You do nothing the whole day and you go home and say, I'm tired. Huh? And look at those who really are doing things. They're running around, standing for an hour and a half every time, walking, running up the stairs. They're inspired. They're on a mission. Huh? And that mission carries them forward so much that the body burns with that energy. That's why such people died young. Died young means they just moved on. They got to realization they didn't need the body anymore. They just shed it. Should be like that. Otherwise, life is not worth living. So, see, you can't get away from the spirit. It's there all over. I persists, isn't it? I see, I hear, I smell, I taste, I touch, I feel emotions, I understand concepts, I go to sleep, I am the dreamer, I am the waker, I am a child, I am a teenager, I am a young person. You don't want to say it, but I am old. I never leaves you. Everything else leaves you. So all you have to do is just latch on to that I. But you can't. You add on things. I'm thin, I'm fat, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm brilliant, I'm dull. And you've lost it. Next verse.
रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दखे पौरुषं ऋषु.
Then you say, you're inspired and say, yes, I want to get to God. But where is God? So he explains here expressions of Brahman. I am the rasa, the taste in water, O Kaunteya. I am the brilliance in the moon and sun. I am Pranava, the syllable Om, in all the Vedas. I am sound in space and valor in human beings. So he gives the best. Taste in water. Do you know? Water is tasteless. Right? But water adds taste to everything. Do you know if anything is anhydrous, means water is taken away from it? It doesn't taste. When you are taking antibiotics or drugs, any kind of thing, the saliva in your mouth goes away, your tongue is dry, you can't taste. So, the Brahman is the essence, the driving force, the energy, the power, the most important part of everything in life. So he's trying to get us there. It's like saying, I'm the electricity in all gadgets. I'm the fuel in all cars. Do you know? If fuel were this Hormuz Strait, if it remains blocked for another 1 month or so, do you know what's going to happen? You may have the most expensive car. It becomes instantly junk. Why? No fuel. Already airlines have threatened, we're going to stop operations. So straight we'll go back to bullock cart. Suddenly bulls will be on high premium. There's no power. See, everything is going to crumble without fuel. This is what runs the power generators and all that. Without power, you might have the most expensive gadgets. Immediately, they all become useless. Similarly, friends, without that touch of Brahman, Just the thought of the higher. If you don't have that, you become depressed. Straight away, you lose your mental wellness. That is what is happening to people all around. You know, diseases where germs have caused the disease, they're gone. But where your own mind causes the disease, how are you going to deal with it? There is loneliness, rampant loneliness all over the world. In Western countries, they don't have people only. So they're lonely. Here we have everything teeming with people, still we feel lonely. Huh? Depression. I know someone who's suddenly got into depression. And then, you know what happens? You feel weak. You feel physically weak. You can't get out of bed. Just sitting in the car and going from here to Worli is frightening. Catching a flight, impossible. You reduce yourself to that state. Now, if you're not already there, don't think you've escaped, because anytime it can hit. That's what happened. That is what is happening today. Somebody in our podcast, the question asked was, why is it that relationships are breaking apart at an alarming pace? Because selfishness has increased. All these problems, depression, loneliness, relationships breaking down, is happening because of increased selfishness. We only think of ourselves, nobody else. You know, before you would say, okay, your love extends to yourself, your spouse, husband or wife, and children. Now you can't say spouse. Maybe you love your spouse, maybe you don't. Huh? At least children you can say. Maybe we'll reach some stage where children also you can't say. That's it. The rasa, the aesthetic delight, that which gives you that punch, is Brahman. I am the brilliance in the sun and moon, the source of light. So he's talking about direct light from the sun, reflected light from the moon, and created light, he hasn't said it, fire. You create fire. All sources of light. Pranava in all Vedas. The theme of all the Vedas is Brahman. And Pranava means Om. The symbol Om is the subtlest symbol of Brahman. Because the word Om is not even a Sanskrit word. Om can be recited by anybody. Even the mute can say Om. An infant says that all the time. You may not know a language, but you can say Om. And they say the sound Om pervades the universe. So it's the subtlest symbol. It consists of 3 alphabets, A, U and Ma. It covers the entire sound spectrum. Is a guttural sound which comes from the throat. U is in the middle of your mouth. Ma is labial, from the lips. There is no sound before A or after Ma. A, U and Ma represent the waking, dream and deep sleep states. And that which is beyond, the undercurrent, the base of all sound is, you can hear only when there is silence. That silence is Brahman. How do you get to God? This ultimate silence of your mind, when you're free from thoughts, free from desires, free from everything. Just the mind is. You get it? Not even meditation, because in meditation there's a thought. That's why When you're deep in meditation, you're supposed to stop the chant and just take in that silence, because the silence is Brahman. Now, you're not able to maintain that silence. You don't have the silence with this gurgling sound that's going on all the time. Desires, I want this, I want that. That doesn't leave you, but at least you experience silence for that time being. I'm sound in space. Now, space is not, you'll say, in space there is no sound. What he means is just volume. It's different from the space that we refer to scientifically. So that is it. And I am valor in human beings. Oh, what a concept that is. The soldier, how he was fighting. The valor, the sheer valor. That is physical. Then there's that emotional courage that you get when you are doing something because of a deep love for someone. My God, you can perform miracles. Intellectual, you will give your life for a concept, for the nation. Like there have been instances, there's stories of people who have taken in the bullets after bullets, but they still fight. And they win. So that is the valor in human beings. That's the most attractive thing in a person. He says, that I am. It's beautiful. It's like, many years ago, there was an ad by a paint company, Jensen and Nicholson. You remember that? He says, wherever you see color, think of us. Huh? Brahman is saying exactly that. That paint company got it from the Bhagavad Gita. Wherever you see life, wherever you see brilliance, wherever you see beauty, magnificence, that's me. So it must remind you, you see a sunset, a sunrise, you see a flower, you see or hear a bird singing, first thing in the morning. Sometimes nowadays especially, hear the koel. It's so beautiful. And sometimes you see a beautiful flower, a bird with many, many colors, and you wonder, in this concrete jungle, where does this bird come from? Parrots. Bright green in color. It's as if they've just had a bath and come. Who cleans them? You sit outside for half an hour, you get the dust, the exhaust of cars, and the birds, nothing seems to happen to them. Who maintains them? That thought must be there. It's something that pulls you back. Between today and the next time we meet, try and practice it. When you're sitting by yourself, you've got caught in a traffic jam, don't sit there and curse. You say, ideal opportunity to think of the higher. Next. Yeah. What is the difference between space and Brahman? Space is one of the 5 elements. It's matter. Brahman cannot be conceived by the human intellect. So you don't know. You can never know. Then what can you do? If you can't know, then why are we sitting here wasting our time? Huh? You can become it. You can't know it, you can become it. Just as a dreamer cannot understand the waker. A dreamer can't know the waker. But what can the dreamer do? Become the waker. That is realization. Right? Next.
पुण्यो गन्धपृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु
I am the divine fragrance in earth and the radiance in fire. See, he spoke of the sun and moon in the previous verse, now fire. I am the life in all beings and the penance in ascetics. So, what he's saying is, I am the dharma of everything, I am the essence of everything. Trace back anything, you hit Brahman. That's why in the Kenopanishad, when the student goes to the enlightened guru and asks, where is God? What is God? And he asks in a technical way. So the enlightened master, the guru, explains God. He should have been given the Nobel Prize. What a brilliant answer. He explains God in a language that even a child can understand. What does he say? Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yad vacho havachagu sa upranasya pranaha. Never mind the rest. You just get shrotrasya shrotram, the ear of the ear. So when you hear sound, try and trace it back to its origin. Is it the outer ear? You know, there's a musician, I think, who got tinnitus, that you hear a ringing in the ear. He cut his lobe off, thinking that that ringing sound would go. So it's not the outer ear, it's not the middle ear, it's not the inner ear. And you trace it right back. You ask the most brilliant ENT surgeon, what makes me hear? He'll take you up to a point. And after that, he'll say, I don't know what makes you hear. That I don't know is God. So he starts with divine fragrance, punya gandha. You know what that is? We're very close to that. The first rains that come. In Bombay, you can't because there is no earth only. But you go a little outside where there's earth, vegetation. The first rains, what is typical of the first rains? The flavor, the smell. It's so, I don't know, it sparks you off. It sends you in a different realm altogether. Where does that smell come from? I am that, he says. I am that divine fragrance in earth. And earth is the first element that you can smell. You can't smell all the other 4 elements. You can't smell space, air, fire, water. Only earth you can smell. So that smell, divine, he says, because it calms the mind. All positive, pleasant smell calms the mind, which is why you wear perfume, right? Do you put on cow dung before you go? Pleasant smell is divine. I'm the radiance in fire. What gives fire? It's heat. You know that fire element is so deadly. In your puja room, you light a lamp, just a lamp. And if you're not careful, you can get burnt. It's got that heat. And it's amazing, fire. So he says, I am the radiance in fire. The inherent nature of fire is that brilliance. I am the life in all beings. I am that which gives life to all living beings. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a cockroach, an earthworm, ant, yes. a bacterium.
Amazing. Small and carrying a sugar.
And I am the tapas, the penance in a tapasvi. This is a fascinating concept. Because what the tapasvi does, in fact, without this tapas, you can't be successful at anything. Do you realize that? Tapas means what? Hard work. A musician becomes great because of the riyaz, that constant riyaz. And it's not just what he sits and does, but throughout the day, his mind is full of notes. In this movie, Shankara Bharanam, which is a Telugu movie, it's an award-winning movie. You must watch that. It's a brilliant movie. The mother tells a little 6-year-old boy that when you go, she wants him to learn music from the guru. So she says, you enter his room and the walls reverberate with music. The floor has music. And they actually show it. This little boy enters the room, he's by himself. He puts a foot here, one note. He puts the other foot somewhere else, note. The whole room reverberates with notes. How does that happen? Because that musician, his entire life is music. That's the tapas. So we only say, wow, what a great performance. You don't understand what goes behind it. The businessman makes profits. I've seen. There are richest of guys. They don't do anything except work. I asked a person, have you been to South Africa for a holiday? No. Have you been somewhere else? Have you done this? Have you done that? Have you eaten this? Nothing. Then I feel like asking, what do you do with your money, man? If you don't enjoy. But that is tapas. He's constantly, his nose is to the grinding wheel. Because he wakes up in the morning. So, you look at a sports person, now the cricket is going on. How they play in this heat, for us to stand in the heat is not possible. How do they play? How did Rohit Sharma score, 80 odd runs? And he's 38 years old, he's not a young guy. Tapas. After the World Cup, his performance went down. He worked on it. He's lost 10 kilos. You can see that, no? He's lost weight. That tapas. What enables the tapas is Brahman. So, without tapas, there is no success at anything. And that is something that we don't like because it's painful. It's not. You want anything in life, you have to work hard. Isn't it? Even if you want to maintain a relationship, you have to work at it. It just doesn't happen. Pay the price. There are no free meals in life, buddy. Nothing comes for free. You just have to work. And you must find pleasure in that tapas. Don't complain. All of us have to work. You stop working, you're dead, decline. So that I am. It's fantastic. So tapas is the ability to conserve energy. Means you cut the waste. You don't allow the mind and the mental energies to go into wasteful avenues. Which means no parties, no movies. But don't get scared. Because most people think Bhagavad Gita means self-denial. It's not that you can't enjoy. But when you're supposed to be working, you can't be thinking of all these indulgences. Then you achieve success, you can do it. So, and redirecting that energy towards your goal. It's simply that. So you're cutting all the waste and you're redirecting your energies towards the goal. Then there's power. You know, there's power in thoughts. Water flowing in one direction, there's power. Air moving in one direction is power. Thoughts moving in one direction, there's power. That is why they say, keep thinking and things start materializing. Things just start happening because they have no choice but to happen. Why? You've just been thinking. Next. Yeah.
In the earlier verse, we said that Brahman is inconceivable and even Uttama Purusha is inconceivable. So there is two. What is the difference? Why have we kept two things which is unknown?
Spirit is conceivable. You say, there is you, your matter. And that which gives life to you is spirit. That is Akshara, imperishable. That is conceivable. You can conceive it. It's finite in your mind. But beyond infinite, you can't conceive. So that's the difference between Akshara and Uttama Purusha. Both are the same actually. But because the universe is your reference point to understanding the spirit, or matter is your reference point, you think you know it.
बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनं बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम्.
Know me, O Partha, son of Pritha, as the eternal seed of all beings. I am the intelligence of the intelligent, the brilliance of the brilliant. So he's referring to, when he says eternal seed, he's referring to the causal body which is vasanas. That's the source of all your activities. It's like saying, when you're walking in the dark and you don't see a rope, and because of the way it is arranged, it looks like a snake, you think it is a snake. Now, what is the cause of the snake? Rope?
Darkness.
Ignorance. When you're ignorant of the rope, you imagine a snake. Okay? So similarly here, eternal seed, he says, because Brahman actually doesn't cause the universe. Otherwise, he's made a mess of the world. Many people say, how could God have made such a terrible world? Arey, God hasn't created. Who's created? You. Ignorance of your real self is the cause of the misapprehensions of the waking and dream state. Therefore, he says, eternal seed. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. Intelligence doesn't mean what IIT, IIM, not that kind of intelligence. Every living being is conscious of something, right? A plant is conscious of light, so it moves towards light. Water, it moves, the roots move towards, so it is conscious of something. Every animal, creature is conscious of something. Similarly, you and I are conscious. So in that sense, intelligence of the intelligent. Even a donkey is conscious of something. And then brilliance of the brilliant. What he means by brilliance, tejaha, is as you grow spiritually, you develop an aura, the vibes as they call it. There's something subtle that you exude to others. And that is irresistible. There's an irresistible magnet that pulls you towards them. You know, it has nothing to do with your physical appearance. Because Vyasa in the Mahabharata, who wrote the Mahabharata, was supposed to be ugly. Yet, in the verses that are in praise of the Gita. Gita Dhyanam, Dhyana Shlokas. He's described as a beautiful personality. So where does that beauty, that magnetism, the attractiveness come from? Not the body. It's your spiritual aura. That's what he's saying here. I am the tejas, the glow, just the unselfishness and the purity that you have is an irresistible force. You try it. Try and do, because general purity takes a long time to develop. But in one experience, just do something for somebody without expecting anything in return. Not even a thank you, not even acknowledgement. Just the fact that you've done it gives you that satisfaction. And see how you feel about it. Within yourself, you feel pure. And if you're able to sustain it, that's what he's talking about. So you develop that aura. And what are we busy doing? Botoxing our bodies, our faces. You can Botox yourself till the cows come home. Nothing is going to change. You won't be even this much more attractive. So don't waste your time there. Just start developing this purity of heart. And you've got it.
The brilliance here refers to what?
Teja,
GB, gross body.
gross body. Intelligence is subtle body. And eternal seed is causal body. So, what are you going home with today? You thought you can just come here and sit and enjoy, but you have to answer.
The world is made up of Brahman.
A small point is converging energy.
Sorry?
Converging energy that you mentioned.
Conserving energy.
Not convergence.
Huh.
Can it be somehow made pleasurable, or because we are not able to put our energy, filtering away energy, concentration goes away. So can there be way that energy, mental energy can be converged in spiritual life,
Yes, with the intellect and the conscience.
conscience?
Conscience means subtle intellect, right? So the intellect, gross intellect, helps you to control your thoughts going in different directions. And it helps to focus your thoughts on one point. And the subtle intellect knows that this is the right thing to do, to go beyond the transcendental. It's like Hanuman. How did Hanuman change? Hanuman was a monkey, right? Monkey means monkey-like tendencies he had. How did he become such a great bhakt of Lord Ram? And now people worship Hanuman, forget Ram. Of course Ram they worship, but Hanuman they worship. Hanuman Chalisa you recite, right? What brought about this transformation is just focus. So the moment he came face to face with Lord Rama, he became totally focused. Nothing else disturbed him.
Devotion.
Hanuman, devotion, yeah, devotion. Yeah? So you can achieve that focus either through intellect or through just devotion. But it's not as if he didn't have knowledge. It's not blind faith. He knew. Because when he was asked, what is your relationship with Ram? He said the famous sentence, Deha bhave na dasosmi. When I consider the body, I am your servant. Jiva bhave tvadamshakaha. When I consider my mind and intellect, I am a part of you. Almost there, not quite. But Atma bhave tvamevaham. When I consider Atman, you and I are one. So for a bhakta, for a devotee, there has to be the two people, because you pour out your emotions to the other person. And yet deep down you understand, you and I are one. It's fantastic, right? Thank you.